CM 365, all about Carnatic music.
Today I am going to share with you a small interesting anecdote. The Maharajas of Mysore, we all know, were great patrons of music, and to perform at the Mysore Samasthanam was the ambition of all top-ranking musicians. And we see that eminent Vidwans were actually invited to perform at the royal palace, and when they performed exceedingly well, they were given very costly gifts by the Maharajas. They were offered golden bracelets and shawls, and some of them even got annual grants. That is, a sum of money was granted to them annually as a support to them. But the point was that it was really actually not easy to get an opportunity to perform in the royal presence. And for this, if you had to really get an entry into the kingdom or to show your talent before the king, you had to actually pass an interview from the Asthana Vidwan of the court. So they had to actually sing before that Asthana Vidwan, and only when he approved their credentials, he referred them to the Maharaja, and after that the Maharaja got to hear them. When extremely talented, jealousy worked up, and there was instances of eminent musicians, being rejected by these Asthana Vidwans. So this concept of jealousy in the art field is nothing new. We see that even at that time, when somebody was extremely talented, the court Vidwans or the Asthana Vidwans did not really actually allow them to come up. And in this case also we see that here, one such instance where two eminent musicians, Periyavaiti and Chinnavaiti, they actually came to the Mysore during the time of Krishnaraja Wodeyar III. That is from the year Krishnaraja Wodeyar ruled from 1797 to 1968. They were extremely talented vocalists, and so their ambition was to win the laurels and appreciation of the king. They came all the way to Mysore. Again here, as I mentioned earlier, the palace Vidwan, seeing that they were absolutely brilliantly talented, he did not allow them to come to the knowledge of the king actually. So they were rejected, and they were not allowed to perform before the king. Now the two of them really got vexed because their only sole ambition was to somehow meet the Maharaja and present their music to him. Then they tried to find out some method. Actually, they were thinking, how can they reach their music to the Maharaja now that the court Vidwan is not allowing them to present it at the court of the king. So they came up with a very weird plan actually, but it nevertheless succeeded. What happened is that they came to know that the Maharaja actually visited the royal cemetery once a week. One particular day in a week he would visit that royal cemetery. And trying to capture the attention of the Maharaja, what they did was they dressed up like mendicants, sat on the roadside and started singing very elaborately there. The Maharaja was passing by this roadside towards the cemetery. On hearing the beautiful music of this two Periyavaiti and Chinnavaiti, he was absolutely enthralled, and he got down from his horseback, and then he went near them and he stood there and he heard their music in full. He was absolutely mesmerized by their music, which was of such a high order. And after listening to them, what happened is that when the two musicians actually saw the king standing before them, immediately what they did was they removed their rags, and then they introduced themselves and said that the only purpose of their coming all the way to Mysore was to present their music to the Maharaja and win his appreciation. They also explained to him that their futile effort in terms of being rejected by the court Vidwan and him not allowing them to see the Raja. Immediately the king apologized to them, and he took them to his his Rajya. And after that what he did was he made them sing there, and after they sang they were given a lot of awards and rewards, and they were honored by him actually. And This is a very, very interesting instance where we see that musicians have always actually tried to impress their patrons. This impressing is very, very important. Now today we tries to impress the Rasika. Of course, here also today we see that the patrons here are the organizers, the organizations today. But at some point of time we see that the kings were the great patrons. And it was because of their benevolence that all these musicians actually survived and flourished so well, where the king recognized their talent and offered them such costly presents and also annual maintenances so that they could pursue the art in all earnestness without having to worry about their day-to-day living actually. So that way we can see that the contribution of the kings have also been immense here, where it is because of their patronage that many musicians flourished in full measure.
CM 365, all about Carnatic music.